Every year, asbestos-related diseases claim roughly 40,000 American lives. That is more fatalities than the annual average for motor vehicle crashes. Because it is so heavily regulated today, it is easy to assume the threat is entirely in the past. But depending on where you are sitting right now, you might be surrounded by it. People often assume asbestos is a synthetic chemical cooked up in a mid-century laboratory. In reality, it is a collective term for a group of 6 naturally occurring silicate minerals that are mined directly out of the earth. When you look closely at the raw rock, you see it naturally forms dense bundles of fibers that easily peel away from the solid mass. These fibers are microscopic, a fraction of the width of a human hair, rendering them invisible once airborne. Molecularly, they divide into 2 families: the serpentine family, like chrysotile, with curly, pliable fibers, and the amphiboles, which form sharp, stiff, needle-like structures. This specific microscopic geometry gives the mineral incredible tensile strength and heat resistance. It made asbestos a highly desirable building material, and simultaneously, it was perfectly designed to lodge deep inside human tissue. In the late 1800s, rapidly growing industries needed materials that could withstand extreme heat and prevent fires. Asbestos was incredibly cheap to extract and virtually fireproof, making it the perfect candidate to fuel rapid industrial expansion. To meet this skyrocketing demand, massive mining operations carved into the earth, pulling out millions of tons of raw asbestos rock. During World War II, the military heavily relied on it. Shipyards packed it into naval vessels for boiler insulation, pipe coverings, and general fireproofing to protect sailors at sea. After the war, that momentum shifted to the residential housing boom. By the 1960s, the United States was importing hundreds of thousands of tons of asbestos every year to build neighborhoods across the country. Builders applied it everywhere, often with little regard for containment. Workers would spray raw, textured asbestos directly onto steel beams and concrete ceilings, filling the air with thick clouds of dust. Decades of cheap, widespread application embedded millions of tons of this highly toxic, nearly indestructible material into the physical infrastructure of daily American life. When those building materials are disturbed, the fibers float in the air and are easily inhaled. They travel deep into the alveoli, the tiny air sacs in our lungs where oxygen exchange happens, and permanently embed themselves into the soft tissue. Because they are inorganic minerals, the human body has no mechanism to break them down. This inability to be cleared is known as biopersistence. The trapped fibers cause continuous inflammation and scarring over decades, eventually leading to severe diseases like asbestosis and mesothelioma. The federal government fully recognized the death toll by the late 1980s. In 1989, the Environmental Protection Agency issued a rule to completely ban the substance. However, a major 1991 federal court ruling reversed most of that ban, allowing existing products to remain in commerce. It took until 2024 for the EPA to issue a final rule officially banning all ongoing uses of chrysotile asbestos, finally closing a 35-year legal loophole. But the law never required property owners to strip out the millions of tons already installed. We exist in a managed-in-place reality, where the old asbestos remains exactly where it was built, dormant unless someone disturbs it. Today, an estimated 30 million buildings constructed before 1980 still contain original asbestos materials. These legacy materials are distributed across nearly every system of the house. You can find asbestos in vinyl floor tiles, the thermal insulation wrapping basement pipes, exterior roof shingles, drywall joint compound, and textured popcorn ceilings. It also sits inside machinery where heat and friction are common, like the brake pads, clutches, and gaskets of vintage automobiles. While these materials are generally safe if left undisturbed, they become a high-risk respiratory hazard the moment they are sanded, sawed, or crushed. Knowing exactly where asbestos hides is the primary mechanism that prevents workers and homeowners from accidentally triggering a toxic exposure event. To handle this legacy safely, modern workers rely on strict legal frameworks enforced by OSHA, specifically Standard 1926.1101 for construction and 1910.1001 for general industry. This chart shows the permissible exposure limit, or PEL. OSHA caps exposure at 0.1 fibers per cubic centimeter, roughly the size of a sugar cube, averaged over an 8-hour shift. The second bar shows the excursion limit, capping high-intensity spikes at 1.0 fiber over any 30-minute window. These strict safety limits highlight the historical ignorance of the mid-20th century, when people wore suits made of pure asbestos to protect themselves from fire. Asbestos is a permanent, microscopic legacy built into our environment, and strict adherence to safety regulations is the only way to ensure this mineral remains dormant.